See if I can see comments on here. Okay, cool. Alright, I can see comments here. Say comments here. Heh, rad. What's up, Cato Heath? Hope I'm saying that right. I'm gonna be at Namm 2019 this year, Thursday and Friday. I'm gonna be at the Theo 1 booth. If you're attending, then by all means swing by and say hi. I'll kind of be poking around the show for the most part. What's up, Michael Tyson? Yeah, I'm just gonna be poking around the show. Definitely gonna be trying out some more of Theo's mouthpieces. I've got some people that are, I think, at the Antigua Winds booth. No, P. Marriott booth. My friend Brian is gonna be at that booth. This guy that I met recently, Darren Ron, is gonna be there. Ron, I think I'm saying his name right. Anyway, it'll be cool to meet up with those guys and just, see some people that I haven't seen for a while. A bunch of my New York friends they flew out here to support their sponsors. Like Gil DeFay is going to be here for DeCarbo trumpets. My friend Lefty, Leroy Thompson on drums, he's going to be here hanging out. Let's see who else. Let's see. Chaim Bakchin is going to be here hanging out with one of the guitar companies that he's sponsored by. I don't know the name of their company, but it'll be cool to see him. He's a monster of a guitar player. And then there's like a bunch of wedding band people that I worked with who are sponsored because they do tours and stuff. Anyway, that's enough of that. Just wanted to let you guys know. If you're in town for Namm, yeah, hit me on Facebook Messenger or something, and or Instagram direct message, and yeah, come say hi. Anyway, I wanted to talk about, since I was getting ready for just being on the showroom floor with my horn, what kind of stuff do I practice just to kind of keep the dust off my fingers? So I wanted to talk about that. And usually what that involves is I'll just free play until I find a cool idea that I like, and then I will oh man, I'm glad to hear that. Thanks Cato. Usually what I will do is I'll just kind of noodle around for a while, play some bebop licks that I know, and improvise a bit until I find a cool sound that I like, or maybe a cool chord progression that I'm like, oh, it sounds nice to improvise on that. So I'm going to just respond to these comments in a little bit, but for now I'm just gonna kind of show what I mean. So I'll just say I just want to kind of noodle around in the key of concert D. Right? So I'll just do that. I'll start there and we'll see where it takes me, and then maybe something will come up where I'm like, oh, this was cool. Let me mess around with this idea. Okay. So that's a cool idea right there. So what I might do is I'd say, okay, let me figure out what that was. It sounded like I was playing like maybe a triad pair type of thing. Am I coming to Cali? I live in Long Beach, California now, so there's the answer to that, Cato. Yeah. So yeah, back to this idea. Sounds like I'm doing triad pairs. It could be a hexatonic on let's see, what is that? It's not minor, although I did play minor at the end. Oh, it's playing off of the 5 of D, that pentatonic. Okay, so something that I've noticed I'm doing right in there is my articulation's kind of sloppy, so I might slow down that line and try to figure out how can I get that line to sound better and more clear. So I might do something like that and just try to kind of work out what the line is that I'm trying to play, and then try to see if I can get the articulation really dialed in on it. And then I might, say, okay, I know I'm playing like a bebop minor kind of thing, or just like a minor blues type thing. So I would say, okay, let me do that same line in a bunch of different keys. I'll just go through it chromatically, or maybe up in whole steps, down in whole steps, or that kind of thing. So that was kind of cool. I started going to like a harmonic minor thing. So that's a nice little change from the usual bebop stuff, or the usual Dorian minor sound. So again, like, I've already just gotten far away from that whole triad pair thing I originally started with, and now I'm doing like I'm actually coming up with a lick that I'm trying to run down in all the keys, and I'll end up doing this thing just for, like, this is what my practice is going to be about. Like, I'll find some cool stuff that I like to play, and then I will just, as long as it's still inspiring me, I'll just work on it until it feels good, and then, or until some other idea comes up. So in my case, it's the this idea of taking that minor, not pentatonic, but this minor Dorian minor scale run, with the bebop line descending, kind of, putting it together, and then now making it be do it with melodic minor. Sometimes I'll play some stuff that I'm like, oh, I should really slow that down and get that together. Like, for example, taking that pentatonic minor lick that I just played and trying to do it with, not pentatonic minor, but do it with a major 7th instead of the flat 7. Right? And then try to do that in other keys, and just, doing more things like this that make it, they just become fun for me to find new things to play on the horn that I can kind of get together, but not really. I feel like now that one of the things I should probably try to do more is take those things and just really get them together. That would really take my playing to the next level, but that type of thing for me, like, I get bored pretty quickly, so I'm like, okay, I can play this idea half okay, let me move on to another idea, because I'd rather play stuff that I'm able to play well, and yeah. And that's probably a bad habit. It's not making me become better as a player. It's just kind of making me maintain a certain level of ability. And for me, like, I've never really considered myself a gospel musician. I've just always thought of myself as, like, I really wanted to be a jazz musician. And with jazz stuff, you're always working on stuff that you can't play well. And I can honestly say that I don't feel like I put in 100% effort with regard to that. And that's something that I feel like I should have, if I had spent more time just, you know, with that mindset, where I was always trying to only work on stuff that I'm not good at playing, I would probably be a lot better than I am. But you know what? I'd rather have, at this point in my life, I'd rather have more fun than work on stuff that that is just going to frustrate me and make me be like, oh man, I need to put more time in on the horn to be better at that. Yeah. So that's the reason, like, that's the reason that a lot of the stuff that I practice isn't exactly structured, because I'd rather just have a good, oh, I don't play at a church right now. And I'm not planning on playing at a church right now. Cato. Well, that's kind of a cool pattern. So do a major triad and then follow it by a minor 7 chord, same root. So yeah, that's hard. That's like, doing that is like, oh man, that's real easy for it to become a brain buster. And you notice, like, I'm not playing the triad in, like, or playing the triad or the 7th chord in any sort of weird, like, order or pattern. I'm literally just, like, trying to do it up and down the scale, or just trying to do it, like, linear, like, playing the notes in series, and then just trying to do that and maybe mess around with the rhythm a little bit. Like, if I was to try to do it not serially, but, like, kind of, you know, jumping around with the intervals and stuff, that would be just like a big brain explosion for me, and I would probably mess up a lot. But it might be kind of cool. Oh yeah, that's hard. That's difficult. Hello. What is that? Pepe Mariano? I don't know how to say that name. Huh. But hello and greetings from Southern California. So that's something right there. I've always felt like I wish I had better articulation on. Every time I play that kind of bebop lick, I wish that was cleaner. So doing the triad run, the triad thing kind of helps me get my articulation really aggressive and poppy, but it doesn't help with that linear stuff. So that might be something where I'll just try to play it really slow. Yeah, so all of this stuff could obviously be better. I'm going to change reeds because this one's kind of worn out. But, you know, it's all right. It's doing the job. I'm hoping at Namm that Theo and his people brought size 9 openings. I feel like the size 8 that I play on right now, when combined with these number 2.5, it's just a little bit too closed, and it makes the reeds feel kind of soft. So, oh man, I don't remember what color I was using. If it was blue or red or white. So, I think it was the white one. I think I was using the blue one. So, we'll see. If it's the same reed, then I'll just change it again. Anyway, if you have any questions, I'm going to be here for about another 15 minutes, and then I'm going to turn off the cam. So by all means, if you have questions about stuff to work on, be sure to ask. If it's possible to pin these messages, ask me anything about saxophone stuff for the next 15 minutes. Saxophone stuff or just jazz stuff, whatnot. Yeah. I will say one thing about Namm, that last year was the first year that I went and I brought cameras and whatnot because I thought I was going to just document a bunch of stuff and make a cool video for YouTube, and that didn't happen at all. I ended up just spending most of my time at the Theo Wani booth. I got to that's where I actually bought this mouthpiece, which was rad. I have currently 2 other Durgas that I should probably sell, because this one, I like it a lot better than the other ones. This is like the version 3 and whatnot, so. Oh yeah, this is a great read. Is that a question? You always add, Kato, you always add 5 exclamation points or more to all of your questions, so I'm not sure what you're asking. Oh, a lot of good questions. Next strap is good. Who is the maker? This is one of those Sax Lab sax holder joints, and I bought it used, and it was awesome. I used to play on one of these Oleg joints, and I felt that like it put a ton of pressure on this part of my neck, and always like I couldn't get the horn high enough for whatever reason. Like, let's see if we can see from the side out. With that one, I always felt like I had to kind of like do this, which is not good. When I was at MSM, Manhattan School of Music, I got to exchange one of my composition lessons with a saxophone student. So he took a lesson with my teacher, Micah Benny, and I took a lesson with his teacher, Dick Oates. And Dick Oates was saying, what you should always do is just take the horn. Horn should always come to you. Like when you see dudes that kind of, do this and they really like, you see those dudes that really, they play like this, like they come down to the mouthpiece and whatnot. That's bad technique and that's bad posture. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other players who were like, no, that's fine, they sound great, whatever. But the point is, like, you just kind of want to stand there normally and then pivot the horn up, and it should come to your mouth. So right now, like, this neck strap is actually a little low because you can see that, like, it's coming into my bottom lip, and for me to make a seal embouchure-wise, I have to kind of move forward to do that. So I actually need to get this a little bit higher. And then, like, I can just pivot the horn, and I can have like good sitting posture and good playing posture, and it puts my arms and like my hands and stuff in a great, just nice and relaxed ergonomic position. So yeah, neck strap is super important. All this stuff I just talked about, I always struggled with that with this neck strap. So once I got this thing, it took all the pressure off my neck and made it a lot easier for me to just play. Let's see, can I do a video explaining the altissimo notes? What do you want to know about them? Like, there's tons of books. There's just tons of books. What do you recommend for less spread and more focused sound? Oh, you have a high, Mr. Maxio Wee. Oh man, I'm totally butchering that name. Let's see. What do I recommend for less spread and more focused sound? A lot of that comes from here and tongue position. A lot of that also comes from just here. Like, what do you want to sound like in your brain? And whatever sound like you imagine in your head, after you've been playing for a really long time, your embouchure and stuff and your tongue is just it's gonna direct your sound to be that way automatically. I think for me, like 20 years, I did not believe the sound that I heard in my ears was the sound that actually that's the sound that everybody heard. So I spent a ton of money on microphones and preamps and all this stuff so I could really learn to see if the sound coming out of my horn was actually the sound that I was hearing in my head. And unfortunately, like, it took me a really long time to just train myself to hear the sound coming out of here is actually the sound that gets picked up. Even though, like when we play woodwind players and with brasswind players, like, we hear also not only the sound that comes out of the bell, but we also hear through bone conduction because this thing is vibrating our jaw, which is vibrating our eardrums in that regard. So along those lines, yeah, it took me a really long time to learn that the sound I'm hearing, the sound I'm hearing when I play something like this, like, that's generally what I hear coming out of the horn is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's not what I'm hearing in my ears is not different than that sound. And it took me a really long time to finally come to terms with that. Because I was like, man, like, what I hear in my head is not exactly, or what I'm hearing is different than what's on the recording. I think it is, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, so that has to do with, like, the focus you get. So if you want a more focused sound, like, just start imagining a more focused sound. And, your embouchure and your tongue position and the way you push air through the mouthpiece is gonna kind of affect that. Like if I want a really, let's see if I can make like a, I don't know, this is probably all gonna sound the same because like muscle memory is gonna take over, but if I want like a really, yeah, let me see if I can even do that, like to make like a, like one of those, like, not like a Kenny Garrett sound, but like a, like that Meyer 5 New York kind of sound. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, so never mind what I said about that stuff. It I can't really change the way I sound. That's funny. What I said about basically what you imagine is what this is going to have happen, and eventually your brain is just going to get really good at controlling the type of sound you can get out of the mouthpiece. I've started to realize that every mouthpiece that I play on, I start sounding the same. Maybe I'll extend this video a little bit. I have a, let's see, I don't think I've done like a mouthpiece test on this video, but I have, let me see if I can get this easily. I have this in here. Where's that little pouch? Here's the pouch. Okay. I have a Yanagisawa number 7 metal mouthpiece from a long, long time ago. This is what I played on in like 8th grade. And I'm going to sound a little bit different, but pretty much for the most part, I'm going to sound basically the same. And this is like what's going to be interesting about it. Let me see. Do you guys a little demo. You guys have really only heard me on the Durga, and if you watch any of my really old videos, you may have heard me on a Meyer 5, or sorry, Meyer's. Yeah, it was a Meyer 5 that got opened up. But for the most part, this guy right here. Okay. It's not even like a high baffle mouthpiece. It's just like a, I think it's got a smaller chamber. But I'm basically going to sound the same, other than the fact that I think this mouthpiece opening is a little bit smaller. Not really sure. There we go, that's dialed in. Let's see, what do you recommend first, Fred? I have no idea how far in I need to push this to get it to be in tune. So this will be funny. Please tell me the preamp when you're recording. Tell me the preamp you recommend when recording. So microphone is going to make a way bigger difference than preamp. For the most part, I've been using the Neve 1073-500 from AML. It's an Audio Maintenance Limited Easy 1073-500. It's a 500 series preamp. It's basically a Neve 1073. I've been using those for a while. I recently started using the Cappy Gear VP28 because it's kind of like an Altos. It's kind of it's got a bit of a tighter sound. The Neves kind of have a more of a woolly-ish thing, which makes them sound really thick and warm and whatnot. But I wanted something a little brighter. Let me play this mouthpiece now that it's on the horn. This should be funny. I haven't played this thing probably in like 10 years, maybe, if that. I think I brought it with me to New York, and I was like, I'm never gonna play this again. So we'll see if there's a reason why. Yeah, like, to me, that just, I can't put as much air through it. It fights back a little bit more, and it doesn't have as much buzz as this thing, which is probably due to the baffle. And also, this thing just, it's got a bigger chamber inside, so I can put more air through it. And to me, I feel like this gets me closer to the way I want to sound, which is easier. I'll have to do that in another video. Can you play some quick gospel stuff? Breakdown of how you played the blood. The blood is basically just a blues, so just play blues. That's, if you know the melody, just do that, and then just, you know, try to sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan if he was playing sax. That's the best way I can describe it. Anyway, hey, let me know what you thought of this this piece. I think maybe with some stiffer reeds or something. Why am I putting the reed back on that? With some stiffer reeds, it might be okay. Let's see. Smelly Fingers says, I need help with soloing over the chord progression. I don't even know how to start with that. Okay. That's a good question. So, what you should do is just take, you should just take a single chord and learn to play over that. You may have noticed, or you may have heard of modal music, songs like Impressions or So What from Miles Davis. That's an example of modal music. Basically, it's just one chord. So when I did the Do video, I was chatting with the Four Corners guys a few months ago, and I was like, hey, when I try to play along with your stuff, it's like impossible for me to be in tune. What's going on with that? And they're like, oh, it's because we tune our instruments to A equals 444 hertz, not A equals 440. And I was like, ew. So I had to like cram the mouthpiece on as far as I could get it in order to play their stuff. And yeah, I wonder if that's what they do live, if they tune their instruments sharp. It sounds good though, like tuning it up that way. I know there's a lot of orchestras that tune to A equals 442. Oh, this is the mouthpiece from, since I'm here, this is the mouthpiece from, if you remember my In a Sentimental Mood video. Yes, the Durga 3 is now the main mouthpiece that I play. The Durga 1 has like slightly different chamber and tip designs. What do I use for a tuner? I can't find it right now, which is super annoying because I don't know if I'm playing in tune. I use like a clip-on guitar tuner because I can just clip it right to one of these posts, and then I can just have it like right there in my face. So I can for tuning practice. Usually, what I'll do is I'll just like improvise for a while, and then I'll sit on a note and just see where it is if I was like sharp or flat. And I know on this horn, like the E flat in the middle of the staff is always sharp. Yeah, the Meyer was super good for that. If I had to, let's see, I have the track right now. I can, I should set this stuff up and like record. Oh, let me mute this video. There's no feedback. There we go, mute. Okay. This is on the desktop. Sentimental Mood. There it is. Show all in Finder. Sentimental Mood Shed. Let's see. See if I can play along with this. That was fun. Okay, got some questions. Yes, you killed someone. Thank you. Does studying music and learning to read music and learning theory on any instrument chain you completely to the music stand, or will it give you a true ear for music so you can play completely? Scotty Shepard, can you restate that? I think you're kind of asking about what happens with classical musicians, how they're just trained to only work on stuff by ear, or like they're stuck with the chart and all they can do is like improvise with that, or like not improvise at all. They're only allowed to play the written notes. So for me, when I was a little kid, my mom would shed piano, and I would sit next to her and just kind of like try to improvise along, and I couldn't. It wasn't until I was older that I got music lessons and I started to learn to read the music that she was working on. But for me, from the very beginning, I was all about playing by ear and whatnot. So I feel like people that get stuck to the music stand, or they get chained to the music stand, I think it really has to do with just how you approach playing music in general. If you're like, if you're a creative person, then you'll find a way how to be creative on your instrument, regardless of if it's if somebody throws sheet music in front of you or if you're only allowed to play by ear. That's a terrible answer. I don't know why I answered it that way. I think 513 Cats, I think I've turned off private lessons right now. If you send me an email and like we'll take it from there. I'm not quite certain what's going on with private lessons and how to set all that stuff up. But what I wanted to say was a lot of the reason mattcatmusic@gmail.com. A lot of the reason that I'm able to play the way I play is because I learned to compose. And in the process of learning to compose, I would take, I would take music like, I would study orchestral scores, and I would hear a passage that, like, you know, it had like a nice flute or string part on top of some other instrument bed, and I'd be like, oh, what is that chord progression? What are they doing? Okay, the strings are doing over these 3 bars, there's like this chord progression that's happening. I'm not on anybody's CDs. Like there's this chord progression happening and there's this line that's going on top of it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Namm, yes, I said that in the very beginning of the video. Namm isn't open today. You can set up your booths and stuff, but I'll be going tomorrow. I'm going to be there from like 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. or so. By the way, let me answer this question first. So, I have a cool chord progression that, you know, I'm hearing a string orchestra play, and there's like a solo line on top of it. A good example of this is the Sammy Nestigo book has these orchestral excerpts that talk about how to do orchestration and stuff. And it's some of the stuff is like, you know, like say you've got like a oh, this is just coming out of one speaker right now, but as an example, say like they'll just have like a pedal point that's like, it'll be a chord progression like that, just something not terribly complex, but they have a really nice written, maybe a violin line on top of it. Like say those could be trombones that are like doing something on top of it. And again, this is in like the Sammy Nestigo book in their subject about orchestration stuff. And for me, I was like, oh man, what is that chord progression? Let me try to play it. You know, let me try to play it and kind of figure out what it is and get it under my fingers so then I can get it in my ear. And then I would start to look at the line that was being played by the, you know, upper woodwinds or the high violins on top of it. And I was like, oh, this sounds this way because these notes are moving from the 5th of the chord down to the sharp 11, down to the 3rd of the chord, and then from there it does like a chromatic thing. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool sound. And then I would start to put it together that when I heard it in maybe some Cannonball Adderley solo, it was like, oh, he's doing the same thing here. And, you know, I could equate the two, and I started to sort of memorize the, this is going to sound kind of weird, I would memorize the emotional feeling that goes with that chord progression. And then it's like, I really like how this, I really like how that moves. And then it's like you start to really tune in on the way those movements make you feel emotionally, and then it's like you start to say, oh, whenever I want this emotional reaction out of my music, I start to get, I know which tools and I know which chord progressions will give me that. And then it's like once you can kind of start to put that together, you can write those down and you can practice improvising on top of them, or you can practice writing lines on top of it. Like you could say, okay, I've got this chord progression, let me write a nice flute and clarinet soli line that navigates through that chord progression. I feel like a lot of the problem that people who are learning to improvise run into is they don't think about just like what they're playing in an analytical way, so they can really just kind of get it together under their hands and whatnot. Like they just say like, oh man, they just played it and it was dope. And they don't spend any time really thinking about, okay, what is it about it that makes it dope? Oh, it's because it's got this like, we've got this chord and then we've got this inversion of it and then it goes up a whole step. And another thing that makes it cool is it's got this half step rub that's in there. I wish this was coming out of both speakers, but you know, whatever. I live in Long Beach, California. I'm not really trying to play live right now. I'm sure if I end up getting a gig somewhere, I'll probably announce it. But for the most part, I'm just trying to take care of a 5-month-old. He's in the other room. We finally got a nanny, and that's really the only reason I'm doing this right now. Anyway, will I be doing some video at Namm? Maybe I'll bring my phone or something, but I don't know. I think what I really want to do is just, you know, try out some gear, hang out with Theo Wani, because he's really cool people, and then meet some of the other sax players that I've met who are like sponsored by other companies, and just, you know, talk shop with them, and, you know, talk about playing and whatnot, and, you know, just try to have a good time. It'll just be like a fun little hang. Let's see, was there a question that I missed? Oh, Scotty Shepard, did that answer your question with regard to does studying music and learning to read music and learning theory or any instrument chain you completely to the music stand? I don't. So hopefully that kind of gave you an answer about that. I feel like a big reason that people get changed to their instrument is because they haven't like truly memorized how do you play X note on the horn. And once they can really do that, they can stop as soon as you stop having to think about how to play concert C on your saxophone or on your clarinet or on your trumpet or on your piano, as soon as you stop having to think about how to do that, and you can just be like, okay, where does this C fit? Like it fits over a regular C chord, it fits over a C sus chord, it fits over like a G major 7 over C. You know, you can play it there. Right, I'm playing it right there. It fits over like an A flat major 7 over C. It sounds good over that. So that's like once you stop having to think about how to play things, then when you go to study music theory and whatnot, then those things become tools and they stop being hindrances. So hopefully, Scotty Shepard, hopefully that answers your question. Who is the sax player you most admire? That's a tough question. I'd say the sax players that I listen to the most nowadays. Well, okay, I'll say who's the most influential for me. Starting from the top. Number 1, Nelson Rangel. Number 2, Cannonball Adderley. Number 3, Pete Chrisley. If you're not familiar with who Pete Chrisley is, if you've ever heard the Natalie Cole recording of Unforgettable, he's the tenor player on that record. He's the guy that does the tenor solo, so by all means, check that out. After that, let's see. Chris Potter. Yeah, we'll go with Chris Potter. David Sanborn. Then Kirk Whalum and Kenny Garrett. I'd say those are like my top. I don't know how many that was 7 or 8. I'd say those are the guys that influenced me the most directly. That would be who I would listen to on those subway rides I would take from my apartment in Brooklyn to my church service in Queens. It was like a 2-hour-long subway ride, or an hour and 45 minute subway ride. So I would just play their songs over and over and over and over. Yeah. All right, I've been doing like a ton of talking right now, so I'm actually gonna play some notes. Do you guys have a tune that you would like to hear me play? Trying to see. Maybe somebody will throw in a comment there and be like, "Yo, play this song." Because right now I'm just thinking like, oh, I could just noodle on some stuff. That's always easy to do. I don't know Children of Sanchez. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna play that Kirk Whalum solo better than him. So you should listen to Kirk Whalum play it. How did you go about getting together on keys? Where does one start? Well, if you know how to read music, then I would suggest just getting the Mark Levine Jazz Piano book, because it has all the voicings you'll ever want to use and how to apply them. Um, Otherwise, find somebody that plays better than you do and can show you, like, break all that stuff down. Oh, I don't know if you guys can hear him starting to wind up in the background. But basically, like a good thing would be, find somebody that can play cool chords for you, and that plays the type of stuff you want. Like for me, I always wanted to learn how to play like Wynton Kelly, and so something I should have done is like find somebody that I know who plays like him in that context, and just be like, hey, what do you practice? Like hit him up and be like, yo, can I take some lessons with you? A lot of that stuff is like super advanced. If you want to sound like Mike Burial, see if he'll give you some lessons. That dude's super busy. I don't know if he teaches or whatnot, but if you want to play like Chick Corea, like you're gonna have to listen to a million of those recordings. The best way to sound like somebody is to listen to their stuff and learn to play it. If that means like you just need to like literally listen to their stuff and like pick it off by ear yourself, then that's what you have to do. Again, I think this comes back to the fact that a lot of people haven't memorized how to play certain things. Just like once you've memorized how to play your chromatic scale, and you can pick off notes by ear, then you could say, okay, I really want to learn how to play like Kenny Garrett. So you go find the simplest Kenny Garrett recording you can, and you learn to play his solo. And when it comes to keys, you could be like, okay, I really want to, yeah, I'll leave this live video up. Don't plan on taking that stuff down. I'm not in the mindset of producing a lot of content for the channel at the moment. So that's why these live videos stay up and I don't take them down like a week later. So anyway, what I was saying, like, if you want to learn to play keys, you might find the simplest keys player that you can, or the simplest recording that you can of the keys. Once you've learned how to like pick stuff off, like I don't even have a good example at the moment, but like what's I'm trying to think like what's a good keyboard tune that you could use as an example, but none of them are coming to mind. Just even if it's something dumb, that's just like just something as dumb and as simple as that. Just learning to play that because you heard it on a recording, and figuring out where do you put your hands to do that. Like that's what I would. That's a good way to go about getting together on keys if you don't have access to a teacher or something. You know the famous saying, it's 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. So if there's a tune that you really want to learn to play on keyboards or whatever, then by all means put in that 99%, because that song is providing the 1%. For me, I would love to be able to play 80s guitar solos on this thing. Like, I'm talking like the guitar solo from Photograph by Def Leppard. That would just, or maybe like one of the guitar solos from a Guns N' Roses album. That would totally trump anything I ever do on this, just because I've always wanted to do that as a kid. But I can't, for whatever reason, I can't seem to find that 99% perspiration to put in the time. And that's the reason that I don't get anywhere on that instrument ever. So to answer your question, Mark Harrison, yeah, man, just like dig in, find some song that like is super inspiring to you, learn, and just see if you can pick it off by ear. And then like, if you make progress with that, then watch a ton of YouTube videos, and just start like absorbing information. The other thing I would suggest is you could get a private teacher, but don't get a private teacher if they don't play the way you want to play. If they are like really stiff in classical or whatever, or they don't know how to improvise and you want to learn how to improvise, then, you know, go into it knowing that they're going to show you fundamental stuff, but they're not going to be able to help you with what you really want to learn how to do. And it can be awesome to learn to play like classical piano and to read orchestral scores and whatnot, or read stuff like Debussy's Arabesque. But if that's not what you want to, if that's not what you really want to do, all that stuff is just going to kind of get you partway to your goal, and you should just, you know, focus on that path to get you all the way to the goal. So that's what I would do. All right, this is 56 minutes. I am gonna end this video here and just shed a little bit so that way I don't sound horrible at Namm tomorrow. Again, if you're there, come swing by the Theo Wani booth. I'll be there from like, I'll be hanging out in that area from like 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. And kind of the same, you know, maybe like 12 p.m. till 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. on Friday. I don't think I'm gonna swing by there on Saturday and Sunday because the wife is gonna have the kid both days and she's gonna need a break, and you know, I'd be a bad husband if I didn't do that. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Maybe I'll broadcast a little bit from Namm, I don't know. I'm currently broadcasting on an iPhone 6s, which does not have a SIM card in it. I just use it for app development. So my phone is a very old LG G Stylo, which looks terrible if I go live. So yeah, anyway, that's why I will probably not go live. But I do have my Zoom recorder that I used from all of the Kingsborough videos. I could bring that, so we'll see. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I will